Alright, I bought a robot vacuum and mop. In fact, I bought many robot vacuums and mops. I ended up going down a complete rabbit hole trying to find the best one. What I discovered, it really rubbed me the wrong way. Many of these expensive products are just garbage. Prototype devices whose companies have just worked out how to game online shopping. High affiliate commissions for reviewers, free products, sponsorship deals, and a sprinkling of fake reviews on sites like Amazon. As a shopper, personally, I felt really misled. So, today's video is going to be a rant, and I know you like those kind of videos from me. But along the way, I did find a good one. Since I value your time, I'm just going to tell you which one it is right now. It's this one, the RoboRock QRevo Pro. It's reasonably priced, and if your space is suitable for a robot vacuum and you lower those expectations, it does a good job. I'd say it takes around twice as long and does 70% of the job that a human cleaner would do. These robots, they just aren't great at seeing a tough spot and doing a deeper clean on it, nor can they pick up a piece of furniture and clean around it. But I must say, it's certainly nice to have a robot clean and mop your floors in between human cleans, especially while you're out and about and not even home. So here's how it all started. Someone close to me recommended I give one a try. I'd previously avoided them because I assumed that they just didn't work all that well, but I thought maybe the tech had evolved. I did what we all do and looked at the reviews. They showed incredible things that these robots could do. Avoiding obstacles, cleaning tough dried spills, vacuuming up hair but not getting tangled, lifting their mop heads to go over rugs, robot arms to move socks. So many glowing 5-star reviews, guys, I had to jump in and give one a go. I did my research, which by the way was super hard, as many of these manufacturers have a stupid number of products. Anyway, as my house is tiled, I knew I wanted one that could mop. This one, the RoboRock QRevo Pro, just looked like it ticked a lot of the boxes. It had solid reviews, it's by a well-known brand, it raises its mop heads to go over rugs, it uses hot water for mopping, plus it wasn't outrageously priced. You may think that $700 is a lot of money for one of these, but many of them go for well north of $1,000. So I bought it. The setup was easy, poured water into its container with a little bit of cleaning solution. I then downloaded the app, and as I waited for the firmware to update, I tidied my house. I picked up anything that might get in its way. Finally, it was go time. I pressed the button to map my house while doing a vacuum and a mop. Look, I expected it would take a while, so I did head off to the gym while I waited, but I was doing that thing where I was constantly checking the app while I was there. It was just so cool to see it zigzag across my house, knowing that when I got home, I'd be walking into clean floors. But after a while, I noticed something. It was running out of batteries. It had only done about a third of my house. So I continued to check on it, and a couple of minutes later, I noticed something else. It wasn't moving. I raced home, and when I walked through the door, I saw the issue. It had gotten stuck on my metal bench. No worries, I loaded up the app and marked it as a no-go zone. I then walked around the house to take a look at how good a job it had done. I must say, I was a little disappointed. There were a couple of areas that still had some dirt on them that a human cleaner would have definitely got. The next day, I was eager to give it another go. I moved the unit to a spare room where I planned to keep it, and once again I pressed go. But this time, the robot, it couldn't climb onto the rug that was now in front of its base station. This was super weird because the day before, it had gone over that very rug. Anyway, not the biggest issue, I moved the base station to a different location in the same room. Guess what? It climbed onto the rug. But then I noticed a new issue. My rugs were getting wet with dirty mop water. When it mopped along the rugs, its spinning heads just kept touching them. And when it went over the rug to vacuum, its wet mop occasionally touched it. These robot vacuums do raise their mop heads by 8 to 10 millimeters when they go over rugs and carpet. But that really isn't that much. Just think about it. When it climbs onto the rug, it's at an angle, and that makes it easier to get in contact with. And if you have high rugs, forget about it. It was getting mine wet, by the way, and mine are low rugs. So this is when I thought, hey, there are more expensive robots out there. Perhaps this is the difference. So I went on a mission to find the best robot vacuum and mop. Almost every reviewer seemed to be ranking the EcoVacs X9 Pro as the one to get. It had a more powerful vacuum, it has a roller mop, not a spinning one, so it should be able to mop along my rugs without wetting them, and it can lift its mop even higher. So $1,000 later, I eagerly awaited for my EcoVacs X9 Pro, the supposed best robot vacuum and mop. A couple of days later, it arrived. The EcoVacs, it's a lot larger than my older one, specifically it's taller, so I can see it being a more robust cleaner. It also had a separate place to put the cleaning liquid. I downloaded the app, updated the firmware, and once again we were rolling, both literally and figuratively. Its app was similar to the RoboRock, same basic features. The unit though, it did do a better job of mapping my house. The Ecovacs, it correctly worked out that my glass doors led to the exterior, and weren't just rooms that it couldn't access, which was a problem with the RoboRock. If I left my shades up, that robot, it just kept trying to go through the glass doors. I did a quick test of the Ecovacs and verified that it does indeed mop along the rugs using its roller. It didn't touch the rug nearly as much as the other unit. After this, I let the Ecovacs charge overnight, and when I headed off to work the next morning, I set it to do a full clean. Well, a little after 6 PM, I walked through the doors, thinking I would have a sparkling clean floor thanks to my 1,000+ top-of-the-line robot vacuum. But what I actually found was absolutely disgusting. The floors were the dirtiest I've ever seen them in the 4 years I've owned the house. There were dirt marks all over the tiles. It was like it had leaked dirty water everywhere. There were droplets and long streaks of dirty water that had just dried out. Guys, it was terrible. Why are these crappy products so highly recommended? Then I started putting 2 and 2 together. I hopped on the email that I use for this very YouTube channel. I get tons of offers from every company under the sun making crappy products. I typed in Ecovacs. You can see for yourself a huge number of emails offering payment for promotion. And most of these, by the way, are from this year. I then tried other major robot vacuum brands, same situation. Tons of offers for sponsorship and high affiliate commissions. At this point, I was determined to expose what clearly seemed to be a scam. These robots, they just don't work like they should, yet reviewers, they're pushing them like crazy. But before I made this video, I needed to test another one. Perhaps my Ecovacs was just a broken unit. So I ordered another. Now, because of Prime Day, the X9 Pro was sold out. Clearly, the influencers had done their job. So I ordered the Model 1 down, the D-Bot T80 Omni. Don't worry, it still cost almost $1,000, and from what I've been able to tell, the only major difference seems to be that this one, it doesn't have a separate container for its detergent. Most importantly though, it uses the same basic design with the same roller style mop. So while I waited for my third robot vacuum and mop to arrive, I needed to clean up my disgusting floors. At this point, I thought, you know what? Let's see if the RoboRock can clean up the mess that the Ecovacs had made. This time, I really took time to explore the robot settings. I turned vacuum power to max, I changed its mop settings to use more water, and I set it to vacuum the carpeted areas and rugs first before it mopped. That way the mop would be clean and dry when it vacuumed over them. All of these docking stations you see, they clean and dry the mops after they're used. I have no idea how good a job they do, but it's probably better than nothing. Look, it's still not going to solve the issue of the rotating mops hitting the sides of the rug, but at least it won't drag a wet mop across them, so I gave it a go. The RoboRock, it did a pretty decent job. With my new settings, it was able to remove about 90% of the mess that the Ecovacs had made. Plus, it didn't wet my rugs nearly as much. So I must say I was starting to warm up to the RoboRock. Anyway, after a couple more days, my second Ecovacs arrived. By this stage, I was an expert at setting these things up. Once it had mapped my house, I had it do a mop and vacuum. Just like the RoboRock, I set it to vacuum the carpets and rugs first, before I started mopping. This time though, I stayed home to watch it work. Straight away, it headed to my dining area and immediately got lost. It couldn't handle my dining chairs. It seemed like it had the same problem as the RoboRock did with my bench. When you have a piece of furniture that's a frame versus solid, these things are just unable to handle it. Unlike the RoboRock though, it didn't get stuck, but it kept trying to enter the chairs from different angles. Luckily, it didn't damage them as they're metal, not soft wood. Anyway, just like before, I went into the app and marked it as a no-go zone. But the more important question is, did my second Ecovacs dirty my floors just like the last one? Well, yes it did. And this time I could see why. Roller mops, they just don't work, at least not the way they're implemented here. Think about it like washing your car's windscreen. You use one of those scrapers and scrape across it. What happens is that you get lines of water. It's physics. You're essentially pushing water and it escapes down the side. That's kind of what's happening here. These mops, they leave streaks of dirty water as the mop moves along. Even worse, when the units turn around, they leave droplets of dirty water. This just doesn't happen on my other one with its spinning mop heads. It just seems to be a fundamental design problem with these roller mops. FYI, in my B-roll, you may notice a lot of suds and think I just put too much cleaning liquid in the water. I didn't. I followed their instructions. I even tried it for a second time, where I emptied the water container and put in 20% of the cleaning liquid they suggested. The Ecovacs, it still left dirty water everywhere. So, here's the reality. There is currently no best robot vacuum and mop. At best, there is the best prototype robot vacuum and mop. My house is about as simple as you're going to get. There are no steps, I don't have kids, I don't have pets, I don't have shag pile rugs, and I live minimally with very little on the floor. At best, after playing with the settings, the RoboRock did a job 70% of what a human would do. It also gets the sides of my rugs a little wet, as I said, and if you don't lift everything up, it does get stuck. These things are still very early stage, folks, and I'm not the only one to think so. Even the New York Times called out how bad these are. The biggest issue that both of us found is with their mopping. Unfortunately, many units though, with the high-powered vacuums, they come with mops, so you may be paying for something you don't want. Anyway, as I reviewed this video with the team, our audio engineer Nick spoke up. He has the Eufy X10 Pro Omni. He also has some reservations. In his words, they do a nice job of keeping your place reasonably clean in between human cleans, so long as you maintain a certain level of tidiness within your home. But guys, do not spend more than $700 on one of these and make sure you look out for sales. My one dropped by $100 after I bought it and Best Buy did price match it and refund the difference. That's because I was within the return window. Moral of the story, the more expensive robots just aren't worth it. They pack in even more early stage tech that just doesn't work. From the three I tried, the RoboRock's QRevo Pro, it was the cheapest and by far the best. The last thing I want to mention is how disappointed I am with the influencers covering this space. This whole experience, it really highlighted the dangers of listening to influencers and reading online reviews. Influencers can be easily influenced and reviews can be bought. Clearly, there are a ton of people promoting these super expensive vacuums that either aren't properly testing them in the real world or are just turning a blind eye. There is a lot of money being thrown at influencers in this space, and it's obviously working for the companies. On Prime Day, as I said, Ecovacs, they sold out of their stock of these super expensive crappy products. No surprises that since then there's been a lot of negative reviews popping up, and unsurprisingly, they've been drowned out by positive ones. This makes me extremely skeptical of whether all these positive reviews are real. My expectation is that when I read a list of best robot vacuums and mops, they are actually able to vacuum and mop. In fact, if I were reviewing these things as a matter of ethics, I put a big disclaimer in every video to level set on where this technology currently is. Anyway, stepping back from my rant, I did really enjoy making this video. It was so nice to try something different. Nick is happy with his Eufy, and I'm happy with my RoboRock. But that's because we understand how to use them and what they're capable of. They are certainly not as capable as many reviews claim them to be. In fact, straight up, seeing the state of the reviews in this space and the best of lists, I'm tempted to jump in. Let me know in the comment below, guys, what do you think? Should we get involved and start covering these, or is there another space we need to look into? Anyway, I'm going to put links down below to the two robot vacuums and mops that Nick and I own and like. That's of course given the disclaimer of what I've already said about them. These are affiliate links and they do generate us a small commission so we can cover what we do here. But unlike others, we're not suggesting you buy an expensive one that just doesn't work. Till next time, go do something awesome with your day and I will catch you later.